Hey there, and welcome to Elden Ring. DLC's coming out here in a couple months. I've been playing the game already, but I wanted to make a new character with the intention of having them set up for the DLC. And I wanted to recreate my very first character, just kind of perfect him a little bit, and just have fun doing that. And since I was essentially trying to, make a new guy and play through it all again, I decided it would be kind of fun to play through the game and do kind of like a lore playthrough where we kind of just take our time going through the game, look at things, and observe the world and the story and stuff before we get into the new one, where we're going to get some maybe new answers and almost guaranteed new questions, right? And since I was making a new character, and I was making it based off my very first character that I played in this game, I thought it would be cool to tweak how I would kind of do a lore playthrough, where I basically play through the game, and instead of just giving answers right out the gate, where we walk in, we see something strange, and I just say, oh yeah, you see that ties in with this other thing way later in the game, you don't know what it is, but this is the answer. Instead, we're gonna basically be going through it like we're a new player. We're gonna be observing the world, reading the descriptions, and trying to absorb the world that it's presented to us, and see what conclusions were given based on the information as it's given to us, instead of just taking everything that we already know and saying yeah, this is the answer. We're gonna discover the answers as we go along, but I already know things, so I'll be able to kind of guide us along the way and sort of streamline it in ways and maybe kind of point us in the right directions and hopefully make it a little bit better, right? Now there's a couple things as we do it that we need to keep in mind, right? And that's that sometimes there aren't answers, as we look at things. Sometimes things are just things. They just look cool. There's no definite, that's what this means, and it ties in directly with that. And sometimes when we find things, they're there just for gameplay reasons. Sometimes they needed an enemy in a place, and they had an asset that had only been used once, so they went ahead and they put the guy in there, because why not use it again, right? So sometimes that's going to happen, and sometimes there's a lot of symbols and themes that they from Software, Miyazaki, whoever likes to stick to in the games, and so they'll just kind of sprinkle those across things, and sometimes they are really intentional and you're supposed to draw conclusions, but a lot of the times they're just kind of there to make you think and come up with your own ideas, and they don't actually have a specific answer or reason. It's more to make you think and come up with your own conclusion, which is, I think, a lot of fun to just kind of come up with your own ideas for things. Now for my guy, he's going to be kind of knightish. He's going to be using some shield things along with spears, halberds, and swords. So we're going to start with the Vagabond. That's what I started with originally, and that's what we're going to do here. I don't think there's any kind of lore things they tell us about these things now. But when you look at the different origins here, they actually have they got descriptions on it, and some of them can kind of give us some information that later on maybe we can connect some things and learn about, right? So these are the stories. So Vagabond, so those origins, those classes that we started with, that's here. So they do have things, and then when you look at what your character looks like, those also have descriptions. So the Vagabond, a knight exiled from their homeland to wander, a solid armor-clad origin. The warrior is a nomad warrior who fights wielding two blades at once, an origin of exceptional technique. Hero, a stalwart hero at home with a battle axe, descended from a Badlands chieftain. Bandit, a dangerous bandit who strikes for weak points, excels at ranged combat with bows. Astrologer, a scholar who reads the fate and the stars, heir to the school of glintstone sorcery. A prophet, a seer ostracized for inauspicious prophecies, well-versed in healing incantations. Samurai, a capable fighter from the distant land of reeds, handy with katana and longbows. Prisoner, bound in an iron mask, studied in glintstone sorcery, having lived among the elite prior to sentencing. Confessor, a church spy adept at covert operations, equally adept with a sword as they are with their incantations. And a wretch, a poor, purposeless sod, naked as the day they were born. A nice club is all they have. So there's some interesting things there. Nothing super, groundbreaking to know, but it's got some, some interesting backgrounds for him. But then if we go to the base template, the warrior, the most common face amongst the tarnished, after all, they were all warriors once. Truth seeker, the face of an austere pilgrim. There are many roads to truth. Aristocrat, a regal face found among those who claim noble blood in the lands between. Loner, found among proud and seclusive tribe of folk, well-versed in ancient legends and heresies alike. Northerner, found among the hardy people of the unforgiving north. Some say they are descended from giants. Seafarer, face of one who wanders the seas in search of their home in the lands between, which is, you'll see some interesting things about that when we get into the game. Reedlander, from the faraway, isolated land of reeds where blood is a familiar sight. Draconian, the stony face of the people of the ancient dragons, among whom life is typically short. And that's interesting because dragons are normally associated with long life, right? And these guys, their life is typically short. Is it because they're descended from dragons of some sort or people of the dragons? Or is it for some other reason? Like, is there some other kind of like lifestyle that leads to a short life? Like, I don't know. Night folk, features of those known as night folk, few in number. They were said to bleed silver long ago, and you can kind of see it. They have kind of a silvery sheen to their hair and stuff, right? And if we zoom in on the face, their eyes are like silver as well. And then you've got the Newman, the face of Newman, supposed descendants of denizens of another world, long lived but seldom born. So some interesting stuff there. Like, nothing that is like important to us that we'll know right now, but later on as we get more information, some of these things are going to kind of connect with some other pieces. We don't care about that. I already have a preset saved, and we're just going to boot him up. There we go. Now anytime you make a character, you get a keepsake. Some of these have some interesting stuff too. Medallion was Crimson Ember. The Gold of Grace shining in the eyes of the people of the lanes between, used to gain many runes. This could actually be helpful for us because there's some things we're going to want to basically buy at the beginning of the game. Golden Seed washed ashore from the lands between, said to enhance sacred flasks. So this like washed over in the oceans to some other place where, we can assume we are from. Fanged Imp, Ashes, small diminutive golems said to hold spirits within. Hi, Kid Cat. A cracked pot, strange cracked pots that somehow mend themselves, a container for certain thrown items. 2 stone keys shaped like swords break the seal on imp statues, but can only be used once. Is that tied with these other fanged imps? Who knows? Bewitching branch, 5 sacred branches charged with beguiling power, said to originate from the demigod Mikola. Okay, so demigod. Boiled prawn, it's 5 pieces of boiled prawn. You go from bewitching branches originating from a demigod to freaking seafood. And then Shabriri's Woe, the crazed likeness of a noble whose eyes have been gouged out, attracts enemies' aggression. My favorite is to go with the stone sword keys. I like having them because I like to just be able to, crack open some things when it's time. Let's finish, and we're going to watch the opening cinematic because there's some interesting things we can get from there. First time playing through the game, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a whole bunch of names and just like lore backdrops. Gives us a basic idea of what's going on. But there's some interesting things that like later on when we look back on it are going to be pretty neat. And something else about it, to me, that cinematic we're about to watch is misleading in a way, but you're not going to know that right away, and it's not even intentionally doing that. I think it's just the way things are laid out, and later on I'll explain why I think that is. Let's do it. Am I forgetting something? No. And also the pictures, you can get a lot from the actual scenery.
Tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog. The lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome Dung-Eater, and Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord.
The ring. All right. So we got a lot of stuff from there, right? A lot of like whole bunch of information, and a lot of it probably doesn't mean much to you when you first play the game. It didn't necessarily mean much to me, right? But we learned something. Elden Ring is the name of the game. Must be important, right? It's broken. Something happened, and we see some pictures of, something like shattering, and it like zooms in when it's saying that. So it was destroyed, and obviously it's important. And then we learn that the queen, the eternal queen Marika, is nowhere. She's gone. This probably tied with it, right? I mean, it's a natural connection. You could go from there. And then, like, all these demigods who are all tied to the queen, like, gather up pieces of the Elden Ring, and then everything goes to shit because it's, like, tainted, and it triggers the shattering, and, like, it's a war. Nobody wins. It's just bad, right? And then we're abandoned by the greater will, which seems like a big deal, right? It's in capital letters. And from there, he goes on about like the tarnished and rise ye, who, dead but not dead. And he goes on this big list of names who we can assume are all like important people because they all seem to have like titles, and they're all, he's talking about them. And if you notice in the pictures, if you go and you watch it, there's a little like golden thing in each one of those. And we will see some more about that, and we can figure out what that is. But it's in each one of the little scenes when he talks about each of the characters. Horalu, Gold Mask, Fia, Gideon Ofnir, etc. Which also he mentioned Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, when one of the character things, the hero class, it talks about how they come from the Badlands and are supposedly descendants of a chieftain of the Badlands. So like, that would be the idea there, right? Maybe. And then there's us, like a random nobody And it's interesting because it doesn't just say like, oh, now we've been, graced by grace. It says once again gifted grace, like we were already blessed by grace and now it's happened again. But here we are. We wake up and we're in some, to me it looks kind of like a chapel-y church kind of section. It's all dilapidated and broken, which is a theme across different From Software games, just broken, destroyed things. And there is a body here, some woman in some kind of like headdress. It looks like a nun kind of thing. Think of Maid Marian from what's it called, like Robin Hood. And we get a tarnished wizened finger. It's interesting. We got ourselves a finger. And look here. Look at that. See, that's the picture that you see in the beginning that each of the characters that he's like talking about have like by them. That I was mentioning that golden thing. Memory of grace. It's a memory of first grace was once guided, bygone, tarnished to the lands between. So it's like they could see this and it's guiding them back to the lands between to become Elden Lord, because that's what he said at the end. Like, come here to the lanes of between and become Elden Lord. You lose all your runes and then return to the last side of grace visited. It's merely a cycle. Stand before the Elden Ring, become the Elden Lord. And then we got this finger. Use it to write messages. It's a finger of corpse wax, so emaciated the bone is visible. It's a relic of those who came before, left to help those who would come after. And now as we go through, we're going to open up and get our first real view of the world. And one of my favorite things with any of their games, any From Software games, is when you walk out and you see something like this, 90% of what you can see are places you can go to. And right there we get the Erd tree, right? It's huge, massive tree spanning the world in front of us. And I said it's the Erd tree, but honestly, I don't think anything's mentioned what it is yet, really. But you got this giant tree. We can see some castle in the distance. There's gold flitting pieces around, some massive bridge. We get a better view of this like chapel thing, and we seem to be separated, right? There's a big old gap between us and that. It looks like we're on this like floating island, and my controller has drift, so I almost walked off the edge there. Locked door. There's not really anything else to find around here other than to see that it is indeed broken and dilapidated. So we go down here and we can see there is a bridge that leads us across into a large courtyard, and there seem to be little coffin things. Is that what I saw there? No actual coffin things right there, but it does kind of, like with the chapel and stuff, to me it kind of gives a feel of sort of a graveyard in a way. And right there, that is a statue of Queen Marika. We saw the picture when they talked about it, and that's the exact same pose we saw in the opening cinematic. And you can tell this is a boss arena. If you've played games, you walk into places, you see a scenario like this, you know it's supposed to be a fight. And then we got this nasty mofo, which I would like to beat him, but since I've already taken a bunch of big old hits, I don't think I'm actually going to pull it off. Oh, that was too slow. Okay. Yeah, way off. But what was his name? Grafted Scion. Interesting, right? Grafted, something that's grafted is like combined and put together. Think of like a skin graft. Think of plants. And then a Scion is sort of like a descendant or, a lineage of some sort. So somebody that's like combined into the lineage, like, well, what exactly does it mean by that? But it's also a big nasty monster. Like, that thing was crazy looking. But in that little splash, even though I was talking, there's like in that dark thing, even though I was talking, there's like a splash, and you can see we're in some water, but we've ended up somewhere. We were killed by that thing. It was supposed to happen. Send us somewhere else.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all. One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring.
So, mysterious person.
Does violate the Golden Order.
Forgot there was another line. So there's a mysterious person on a horse with a horse with horns. She had some kind of ring on her hand, a little thin golden band. And, I mean, are obviously waking up in some kind of wet place. She's saying we were lucky and one of our kind. And I can assume that means tarnished, right? She's saying that, of course, one of us must seek the Elden Ring, even if it violates the Golden Order. And so, what is the Golden Order? Because this is the first time we've heard of that, right? Is it like, like an Order 66 kind of situation? Like Golden Order 66, don't touch the Elden Ring? Or is it like, an Order of Templars kind of thing? We don't know yet. Like, it's the first time we've heard of it. But now we've got these flasks. If we go and we look at them, a sacred flask modeled after a golden holy chalice that was once graced by a tear of blessing. It's filled with crimson tears, and it restores HP. It replenishes at a site of grace. The one washed up on the gravesite was sure to die until this flask offered its gift of rejuvenation. So, to seek the Elden Ring. So we were going to die until we got that thing, and it healed us up. And we're in a gravesite, and it's hard to see because it's pretty dark in here, but yeah, there's all kinds of coffins. We're underground somewhere. There's roots everywhere. A ghost boy in a chair, and a golden-looking tiny tree, which, you think about the giant golden tree we saw, right? Brave Tarnished, take the plunge of learning and remembrance. Recall the arts of war and your warrior's blood. So seem to have warrior's blood is what he implies. This is a tutorial area. There's nothing amazing for us to get there. I'm honestly gonna skip it for right now. I don't think there's anything really to get from out of it, except there's kind of like a little boss, the hardest boss in the game, but a soldier of Godric, which is interesting. So who is that? And we got these women statues. They've got, or statues of women. They don't have any hands. I think they're just broken, but that's fine, right? All these candles, none of them really lit. And we walk in here, and look at these candles. Like, they're not red flames. They're like white blue flames, which is not normal, right? We can assume that's not normal. There's a site of grace. It's our first one that we find. That torch is also glowing. And there's some imp statues I was talking about. And so if we actually look at it, you can see they're writing there. And we have the stone sword keys. We could open it, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. So we're going to wait. But we seem to be in like a big old underground crypt, catacombs. And we get ourselves a finger sever, a tarnished furled finger. There's not really any other lore to really get from there, aside from on the finger sever, I believe. The phantom blade severs a link formed by a furled finger, which is what this does. It allows you to do co-op and multiplayer. But this says it severs a link formed by it, but the maidens scorn those who abuse its use. So, interesting, right? This is also made out of corpse wax. So it's, again, another corpse wax thing. And there's also some, like, rings. If you look on that, I never really noticed that before, but look at that. There's some rings on there. There's a little tiny one in the little middle joint section, and then there's a sort of like, I don't know what style ring you call that, but there's another one there, which is interesting to me. I never really noticed that before. And here we go. First look into the real open world section. And there it is. Limgrave. Which, I tell you, man, first time playing this, dude, like, coming in, it's like, holy cow. Like, the aesthetic is so different from the normal, like, From Software, like, Souls game. It's so bright. Like, it's a bright, kind of colored world. Lots of green. Oh, no. Autumn-colored leaves. We can see that giant Erd tree thing there. This big old tower and that bridge. Like, we'd seen a bridge before, and there's another one here, but this one seems to be broken. A castle, so it makes you wonder, like, is that the castle we saw before? And you can see there's something else right there with a big statue or something. There's a guy there, somebody up on a big, like, crucifix thing, and, a big horseman of some kind. And if we look back, there is some, like, there's a big old building that we came out of, and it's like some kind of figure holding a body, and the body looks pretty emaciated, right? I mean, it fits the idea of like a mausoleum of some kind, or catacombs. But let's talk to this guy. We'll see what happens, and we can see, yeah, that is a dude all tied up, and he's got like a hood on. It looks like something around his neck as well.
Oh yes, tarnished, are we?
Yep, we're tarnished.
Come to the land
He's got a mask.
for the Elden Ring.
Of
Of course you have. No
And he's got
shame
some
in
like
it.
blood on him as well.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
The fingers ever
Without
mention
guidance,
maidens, right?
Without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the round table hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
All right, round table hold, guidance, maidens, like the more things, and he's making it seem like we're supposed to have things. He's like, but without having any of those things, you're not gonna make it.
Luckily for you, however, there is one shining ray
Go away,
of
kitty.
hope for even the maidenless. Me, Varre.
Varre.
Take care to listen.
All right, I'm
Are you
listening.
familiar with grace?
I've read about it.
Golden light that gives life to you tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, a path that a tarnished must travel. Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you tarnished to the path you are meant to follow, even if it leads you to your grave.
That's not sinister at all. All right, so you can see it right there, right? We look at the side of Grace, and we can see that picture there, that thing floating there, looks a lot like this one right here. Right, it's got the same shape, it's golden, and then there's a swirly light pushing us on towards the north, and it looks like that chapel right there. It's all broken and dilapidated.
Grace's guidance will reveal the path forward, most certainly, to Castle Stormvale, over on the cliff.
Okay,
the
so that's
home
Castle
of the
Stormvale.
decrepit demigod, Godric the Grafted.
So it said there's a demigod there. That's the second time we've heard of a demigod. And if we actually did the tutorial, we would have fought that guy who's, a boss, who's soldier of Godric. So there are soldiers that are following this, demigod.
Time you set off, I should think, to Castle Stormvale on
Okay.
the cliff. If you seek the Elden
Maidenless
Ring,
as you are. Anything else?
it's time you
Yeah, okay.
Castle. If
Cool.
you seek
So I guess, that's the first thought. Is like, okay, let's follow that. And that's pretty much what I did in my first playthrough, too. There's Roa Fruit. Not really anything to learn from there. Golden Effigy. This is another multiplayer item. Nothing to tell us, like, lore-wise or anything that kind of guides our story. Now, I'm going to try and beat this guy. I want to beat him because he's going to give us a lot of runes. And I would like to use that to get some of our first few items that will kind of help us, like, looking around the world. Earthly Flower. We'll read about that in a second. Let's get a good jump attack. Oops. Or I'll just miss. No big deal. I did not change where my my flasks are. I like my flasks to be on a different spot, but I kind of forgot to do that. Yeah, you can kind of hug his side, and if you get in the right spot, you'll be pretty okay, and he'll miss a lot of his attacks. Big fully charged R2. Nice. I need to make sure I'm using my square off skill enough because it can do a lot of posture damage, so we can stagger him quickly. Utilizing jump attacks will also help us out. But mostly we need to make sure we're playing very safe. We don't need to get hit because we can quickly find ourselves losing by, taking hits. And every time we have to heal, it's time we're not doing damage, and it's time that he can actually hit us again because of poor timing. See, bad roll. Oh, that's unfortunate. I can do better than that. This guy's pretty interesting to look at. Like, I mean, he's really cool. Like, he's completely covered in, like, gold armor. And as we go through, you'll clearly notice that gold is a very significant color. And look at his shield. He's got some kind of icon. There's, like, a figure standing and, like, a second one. His horse has, like, a unicorn horn on the armor piece. And even the little, like, I don't know what you call it, tassets. Like, to me, they look kind of leaf-like, which, I mean, makes sense if that big tree, if there's a giant tree, people are going to find it very important. And having something look or, like, reflect that in some way makes a lot of sense, right? So, I mean, even if you look on his cloak, I want to say bummer. I want to say on his, like, cape, there's like a tree symbol or something, but I could just be I mean, that looks pretty tree-like, right? Oh, it's close. Hopefully I don't mess this up. I'm out of healing. Oh, why did I roll? Dang it. Thank you. Got him. Whew. Took me a couple more tries than I wanted. Alright, so we beat that dude. Get some runes. And then we get a golden halberd. What does this say? Let's see. A weighty halberd forged of gold, wielded by the Order of Tree Sentinels, which, I mean, we saw some tree motifs with them. A sentinel, somebody guarding, the dude was patrolling. Makes sense. Heavily equipped knights. Deals holy damage. It's a masterfully crafted weapon that lives up to its heft, but is difficult for one of mere human strength to wield. And it's got a skill, Golden Vow, passed down from antiquity among the knights of the capital, who raise the armament aloft and pledge to honor the Erd Tree in battle, granting self and nearby allies increased attack power and defense. Interesting. And we look right there. There's an item underneath this dude. It's interesting. So we go and we collect it. What do we get? A golden rune, which we read some of those items. It's like the gift of gold, like the grace of gold that was like among, that dwells within the inhabitants of the lands between, lingering trace of gold. And it's like a little sorely nebulous thing. It's nourishment for the development of any tarnished, provided a finger maiden can be found. So it's good for us, but we have to have a maiden. And that's why Varre was saying, like, how are, we're destined to lose if we don't have a maiden, if we don't have the circle hold, the round table hold. That's what it was, There's a blacksmith thing here, some smithing stones. Interesting. Is there anything interesting about them? Let's see. Used to smith. Found throughout the lands between, and mining galleries built to excavate it can be found everywhere. This Erdleaf flower. It's a dusky yellow flower that has started to fade to brown. It's found throughout the lands between and said to have been fed by the leaves that fell from the Erd tree in the days of antiquity. Huh. Now here's another friendly guy. He's kind of neat looking. Santa guy. He's got like, if you look, it's got a string instrument, and you can see he's got like a string on his little deal with like a hand. Like some interesting stuff going on there. And actually, if you look into his clothes, it's hard to tell here, but he's got chain link on there too. Like he's actually armored a little bit.
You're a tarnished. I can see it. And I can also see that you're not after my throat. Then why not purchase a little something?
All right.
I am Kale, purveyor of fine goods.
Take a look. Let's see. We definitely want the telescope. It's an astrology tool used by members of the Carrion royal family. Stolen part of a larger instrument. It was stolen. Allows us to see faraway things. And during the age of the Erd tree, Carrion astrology withered on the vine. The fate once written in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order. Interesting. And actually, one of the beginning things, the astrologer talks about seeing like fate or destiny in the stars and the skies. So like, it would make sense you use this to look at the sky and like find out the destiny, see the fate writ in the night skies. But there's this Golden Order again, seems to have like restricted that. We're going to go ahead and pick it up, though. And we're going to get this crafting kit. There's nothing interesting to read about that one. It's literally just a crafting kit. But we are also going to get us a torch to be able to see. And from there, anything here? No, nothing interesting. Just plain armor, right? There are these cookbook things, like this one here. The missionary one is interesting. A record of crafting techniques left by a man who, unable to become a finger maiden, instead became a missionary and went forth to spread holy teachings. So, all right, you got finger maidens. There are other things that I've been talking about maidens, and we're saying we're maidenless, so we need a finger maiden, I guess, especially if we've got these runes, because it's saying, like, when you have the, like, little rune shard, it's like it's nourishment for us, but we need a finger maiden. Guy can't become one, so only women are finger maidens. Interesting. We can also learn, there's also some interesting crafting things there, too, but we're not going to pick it up right now. We'll save it for later. About Kale.
I am of a nomadic people, selling wares as I travel. The land has been tainted by madness since the shattering of the Elden Ring. It's only tarnished like yourself, who keep things from drying up entirely. Let's say you're a very welcome customer.
Okay, interesting.
Goodbye.
He's also got a little, he's got a donkey dude. It's kind of cool looking. Weird looking. Good old packing stuff. All right. Well, cool. And look, we can see there's some there's another line going from here. Again, it's still kind of going north. It's going up that way. Not quite at the castle like he was saying, but I mean, if it went straight towards it, guess what? We couldn't go right up there. So it seems to be guiding us to another side of grace, because that one pointed us to this chapel where there's, guess what, a side of grace. And now it's going to point us to another one. So we can kind of go that way. And if you look on your map, you can see it. Look, this one doesn't have one there, but then we go from here, from Varre, and look, it's got a line, it takes us right here. And this one is telling us to go along here, which has got a road. And then something right here at this juncture. It looks like there's some kind of obelisk-y looking thing. We're going to check it out. We should rest first, and I will actually move my flasks into a different spot. When we get on this road, one, I noticed, look over there, you can see there's a bunch more dudes that are put up on the crosses. So people are putting these up, and the only people we've seen so far, random dude Varre, who has been helpful, but I mean, you can't trust him. There's no way. Then you got this merchant dude, big giant gold tree sentinel dude. There's a thing right there. And some dude walking there with a torch, which if we did the tutorial, you'll recognize them as being some of these soldiers that we fought, like the soldier of Godric. But we're going to go ahead. Let's check that out. Like, even though we've got the side of grace, we go look at this thing and see what it is real quick. And the other thing, as we like go around, you can see like a big theme is that everything's like destroyed, right? It's like all broken. The chapel, it's not like nice, completely refurbished or well maintained. Like everything's destroyed, right? And there's ruins and scraps of like just rubble all over the place. And look, there's an island over there too. And if we go and we look over there, what are we gonna find? Look, another broken building. And guess what? You can probably go there because again, like I said, 90% of the things that you see, you can go to, which is really cool. And now that we have that telescope, we can take a look at this thing again. And there's a figure holding, like I said, look, it's an emaciated body reaching up towards the sky for some reason. And that figure, like, is it destroyed or is it purposely not really have a head, right? And we can see there's another big tree. It's nowhere near the size of the Erd tree way over here, right? Like, that thing is truly massive and, like, way golden. Kind of like that little tree we saw in the Stranded Graveyard. But if we go and we look at this thing, like, the leaves and stuff are all golden, but the actual, like, trunk it's, like, real. It's solid looking, right? But let's go look at this thing I kind of caught a glimpse of, right? Okay, it's a statue. It's got, like, root things, and there's a hunched dude. He looks old, not really any eyes in him, and he's got something in his hand, and we can examine it. Look at those feet. They're, like, clawed, nasty feet. I mean, he's all hunched over anyways, but yeah, interesting. Guide and gatekeeper for those returning to their roots. All right, interesting. He's got a crown, it looks like, too, right? Look at that. It's like a rooty crown thing to go with his gnarly hands and head. And it's got a wispy thing, and it looks a lot like the grace, like from the, the guidance of grace, except it's blue and it's pointing somewhere else. And you can see that. Look at that flame. It's a blue-white, just like that ones we saw over there in that, like, mausoleum crypt place. So we're going to follow it, and we're going to see where it takes us. Pointing somewhere over here. We can see some other dudes here. And again, these are things we see in the tutorial. They're just like look at them. They're, like, ragged, like, zombie-looking dudes. Like, look at that dude. I mean, he looks like a zombie. Look at them. They've got, like, no features. I mean, they're all gnarly. Ragged clothes. They're not even really doing anything. They're very reminiscent of the Hollows from the Dark Souls games. They're just your baseline, just like little zombie dudes. So, like, I guess there are zombies in this game of some kind. They're rooting around in the ground for some reason, and it's almost like big tombstones that they're digging at. And then you got this dude just kind of wandering off. Like, where's he going? What's he doing, man? And it's interesting, because if you look at his clothes, like, it almost looks like it should be fancy. He's got, like, some frill-looking thing across the top and stuff. But it's obviously not. He's not been taken care of. It's not well kept. And now, there's a door over here. And if we open up our map, too, I think we'll see that there is a marker from that statue. Exactly like how the Guidance of Grace is. See? Exactly like it. It's exactly like it, but it's blue. Stormfoot Catacombs. So we'll activate that, and we will rest, and then there's a ghost that we can talk to. A proper death means returning to the Erd tree. Have patience until the time comes and the roots call to you. And I mean, in that saying, it said guide and gatekeeper, those like to those who return to the roots. And he said all who die need to return to the Erd Tree, right? A proper death means returning to the Erd Tree. So if we want a proper death, we need to go back to the Erd Tree and have patience until the roots call to you, which makes sense. Like, we're underground now. Like, that door, we had steps going down into the earth, and where our roots are going to be in the earth. Oh, and look. It's an imp dude. Interesting, right? Like, now we see those imp things like we saw at the beginning. Like, it had the ashes that it talked about. And we got those stone sword keys for use with the imps. We're going to go ahead and put on a torch, too. That'll allow us to, like, really look around. And, I mean, yeah. Standard catacombs, but again, right? The candle lights are now blue. So is that something that happens underground? Is it something to do with, like, crypts and graveyards? You know, we'll have to see. And now we come to a big door where there are some skeletal, like, I don't know what you call them, like gatekeepers, and they've got some lights, and their fire is actually yellow, which is interesting. Some kind of staff going on, and a door that has, you know, a tree. But if you look kind of at it, look right there, like, look at the top. It's hard to see now, the torch is gone, but there's like little figure things like leaving the top of the tree. And down low is those figures on the left, and like kind of these like shapes, something there on the side of it, right? Like, those are definitely shapes down there, and it goes up, and it looks like the vague impression of forms up at the top. And I mean, it's definitely a tree with roots down at the bottom, and it talks about returning to the Erd Tree and waiting for the roots to find you. Here's another plant, grave violet. Maybe it's sort of like the, you know, the Erd leaf flower. Let's see what it says. A purple flower that blooms in graveyards, material used for crafting items. The hue of ghost flame. It's believed to be useful in calling forth spirits. So ghost flame, something maybe to call forth spirits. And you can see there's like wisps coming off the plant too. And there's another kind of white plant, right? A grave glovewort. We open that up. What's it have to say? A white flower that blooms in catacombs, each a soundless bell used to summon spirits. The art of strengthening ashes is known as spirit tuning. Only a spirit tuner may perform this deed. Soundless bell used to call spirits. Ooh, and there's some fire. Here we go. We're gonna sprint. Gonna start sprinting. Roll. More fire. Ooh, almost walked into it. Roll. Run. Roll. Here's an item. What do we get? Prattling Pate. Hello. Pate's a character in Dark Souls 2. Twisted clay sculpt in the shape of a human head. It's a pretty gnarly human head, though. Look at that thing. And it emits a voice that says hello. A wistful fetish that imparts voices and words on an eternal journey. Okay. Nothing super crazy there, but I don't know. It feels kind of nice, that way. There's like little imp statue things on the bottom of those things, right? You notice it? We'll take a look at it when we get up there. Yeah, see, they're like little imps. And there's more of them hanging out there. So we can break that. And then there they are. Oh, we can see a dude on the side, too. I would like to get him, please. Come on down. Can you... I would like you... Ridiculous. Oh, we find some ashes. Wandering Noble ashes. These ashes are great because, I mean, not this specific one, but finding ashes are really interesting because they can add a lot of flavor to your character, and there's a ton of, like, lore you can get from them. So the spirits of nobles who, after death, now wander the lands between. Surely they were in search of something once, but whatever it was has long since been forgotten. Summoned 5 wandering nobles, so they... are in search of something, but it's forgotten. I mean, they seem to be wretched kind of zombie dudes. Like, they don't seem to do anything, right? Like, we saw some of the other ones outside of this place, and they were just, oh, are you serious? They were just digging around in the ground, running away from us, just kind of shuffling about, like, aimlessly. No real purpose. They were just doing things. I gotta walk back up there now to open the door. Well, there's that gatekeeper-y looking dude again. Pull the lever, what happens? A heavy door is opened. So we can assume that's that big tree door. And there it is. And we go on in. Fog wall like this means a boss. So we go on in. What are we going to find? A big stone statue. Erd Tree Burial Watchdog. So it's definitely like Erd Tree Burial. That's what this place is for. And they, you know, like they said, the ghost said, a proper death means an Erd Tree Burial at the roots. There we go. Good. Good counter strike into his dagger, because that second attack would have really messed us up. I don't ever really use straight swords, which is something I want to do with this build. Like, I've done shields before when I first was playing the game. I wanted to see how great shields felt, because in Dark Souls 3, they weren't super amazing. So in this one, I really wanted to see how they were. And I mean, short answer is, they're pretty good, if that's what you're interested in. We blocked that one attack, but luckily, we didn't completely run out of stamina. Nice. Now that dude's interesting. Like, he's got some crown around his neck. He's got a red cape of sorts, a flaming tail, like big old ears and stuff, and almost human-like face. Like, that dude was pretty bizarre looking. And crazy looking eyes. Like, to me, his eyes are like crazy looking. And as we look forward, like, look at that. It's just bodies. Bodies melding in with these like roots and these big like masses of just like flesh, I guess, which is, I guess, the Erd Tree Burial, right? It's the Erd Tree pulling you back into it, which is the proper death, I suppose. But it just looks disturbing, right? Like, it doesn't look right. And you can see, like, on that door, remember I mentioned that it looked like there were little things, like, kind of nobule looking things at the bottom? Like, maybe that's what these are. I don't know. We got some noble sorcerer ashes. The spirit of a noble sorcerer is a spirit of a nobleman who once asked to be given a place at Raya Lucaria to learn glintstone sorceries. A bunch of backgrounds I talked about people who studied glintstone sorceries. His talents were insufficient to be worthy of donning the stone crown, however, and he is only capable of using the most rudimentary sorcery. Stone of Crown seems important. I mean, that dog thing had his crown thing around him, right? But was that the crown of stone or just something else unique to that? Like, you know, we don't have answers yet, but it is an interesting speculation. We'll see as it goes. But now we're gonna go and follow back along what the the Guidance of Grace wanted us to do, and see where that takes us, and we'll call it there for the video. Now, something I kind of want to mention, right? Not to drag on the video as I have to, like, walk up to this other place. But, I'm not going to do everything in the game because there's just too much. And it would make everything go on forever and ever and ever, right? So I'm going to kind of, you know, pick and choose what I do and skip some things, do them, and not actually show you guys. Like, we'll see. If there's something important or really interesting, I'll definitely have it in the video. But I'm going to definitely pick and choose some things. Now, we took out the soldier dude, and you can see he's got some, what do you call them, like standards and symbols on him, right? And you can see there's like a beast of some kind on the right side and a tree on the left, which makes sense. And look at that face, though. Like, he is also, like, kind of like super zombied up, kind of like those other dudes, like we saw the wandering noble guys. Like, he's got sightless looking eyes, a whole, like, emaciated face, rotten teeth. Even, like, if you look at his armor and stuff, like, look, it's all rusted. Like, nothing is kept in this place. Like, nothing is well kept. It is all worn and abused by time and use. Nothing has remained the way it should be. An interesting thing was all these soldiers. Like, they're definitely out and, like, patrolling the road. This dude was looking around. They're in search of something, which, I mean, makes sense. Because what happened, like, when we first showed up, we're ambushed by a big monster of some kind who tossed us in the ocean. And then what happens when we get back into this place? There's a big tree sentinel, like a sentinel, dude who stands guard, as you know, right? And watches, and we moved through there, and then there's guards everywhere. There's people put up, like, basically crucified everywhere. Like, they're watching for people, and the assumption you can make, if they don't like us, maybe they just don't like the tarnished. So is that what they're looking for? Who knows? And I mean, what's our goal? Like, right, why would they stop us? And it's because we're trying to go to become Elden Lord, like the Elden Ring. And is it have to do with the Golden Order? Because that mysterious voice, that woman with the horse, she said, like, we would seek out, you know, to seek out the Elden Ring, even if it defied the Golden Order. So, we'll find out some more as we get more information on each of these things. Maybe on the Lord of the Castle, like demigod Godric. You know, maybe if we figure out more about that figure who talked, you know. Oh, this is a problem. He actually signaled his people, which is a problem. So we're going to run a little bit because that's a lot of dudes. Do not be afraid to run in these games. If there's something bad going on and you've got a lot of runes and stuff, just run away. And look, a Site of Grace. Let's hit that real quick. And maybe now we can fight some people. Let's go. Probably not going to win, but, you know. Oh, I'm out of healing. That's a bummer. Oh, it's because I never healed after the dungeon. Bummer. Get that critical hit. Your shield means nothing to me, but I would like that shield. I want to use a great shield. I want to use a tower shield. I think they're a lot of fun. I like using shield bash. That's the intention, was this guy. And I want to use, you know, like a shield bash, as well as, like, have one of my weapon slots being like a spear, or like that guy saying a partisan, and a straight sword as a secondary, so that I can swap between them depending on the situation. But this place is, I mean, we get here and it's like a huge encampment, right? Like, look at that. It's just soldiers all over the place, and they're like guarding the place. There's this big carriage thing, and it's a main road that goes up here through a big gatefront. And if we look at the name of this, it's the Gatefront. Stormgate, Gatefront Ruins. It makes a lot of sense. And it looks like there's more soldiers. Like, if you look up there, like, they are all pointed outwards to keep people from going that way. And I guarantee you, if you look, that's where Grace wants us to go. It wants us to go that way. They are trying to keep us out. But we're not going to go that way. We're going to finish exploring this place real quick. Hey, soldier. Oh, no. Gotcha. Counterattack. It's one of my favorite things they added with Elden Ring. The, like, counterattack thing. Even though it's awful against other people, it's so much fun to use against, like, you know, the PvE, the monsters and stuff. And there's a Lord Sworn's Greatsword. So let's take a look at that. I'm not going to use it. Well-crafted straight sword was an illustrious design wielded by regulars of a Lord's army. Though blackened and damaged by years of use, it appears to have been otherwise kept in serviceable condition despite the soldiers having long since lost their minds. Which kind of tracks with what we observed. Like, they looked like zombies, and that tells us that they have long since lost their minds. But they've kept their weapons in good condition, even though their armor seems to be a bit rusted and worn. A lot of their armaments are reasonably well kept, right? But we'll finish clearing them up. And there's a big knight dude there, and we're going to deal with him. Hey there, bud. I mean, he's definitely different. He's got a big shield. He has a spear. He's got a plume on there. He looks more armored than the rest of the soldiers, right? Oh, just a casual circle. Circle and backstab. Let's go ahead and heal up. We're going to hit him with the old square off. Or I'm going to get myself messed up because I'm being a little dumb. There's no reason. Like, you don't need to complicate things, right? Like, look at that. Like, if you can just cheese a little bit. And half the times when you're fighting guys, you don't have to do anything fancy. If you just, you know, if you just attack, that will carry you through 90% of the fights. Don't overthink it. It's going to be fine. But he dropped us a helmet. A helm worn by knights loyal to Godric the Grafted, adorned with a plume of withered, ashen hair. Cool. Look at that skull. It's glowing. Why is it glowing? Look at the eyes on it. They're golden for some reason. And if we roll through it, what do we find? Golden runes, which we know are the, whatchamacallit, like the grace, the residual grace in the denizens of the lands between. But we're going to finish clearing this up, and there's some things we can find in here. As we go through, you could spend time exploring it if it's your first time through, but we know where it's at. It's right there, and that's where we're gonna go. They have wolves with them, which is interesting. Not dogs, like those are wolves. So why are the wolves with them? Great question. Maybe we'll find out. Who knows? And we find a chest. Inside of the chest is Ash of War Storm Stomp and a Whetstone Knife. So if we take a look at that, here is the Storm Stomp. Grants the quality, affinity, and the following skills. Storm Stomp, one of the skills that channel the tempests of Stormvale. And we know there's a castle we're going to, Stormvale Castle. You stomp hard on the ground to kick up a momentary storm. And I mean, this gate that we're going through is called the Storm Gate. So storms seem to be important here, hence all the storm things, just like the catacombs. Stormfoot Catacombs, or whatever it's called. But we did get another key item right here. Whetstone Knife. Whetstone was a cipher inscription made to look like a small knife blade. It allows the use of Ash of War at a site of grace to bestow new battle arts and affinities to armaments as skills. They depend on the Ash of War you use. So, Whetstone, made to look like a knife. It's got a little inscription on it, maybe to make it magical or something. So if we keep kind of going this way, and we can see, look right there. You can see little twirly, like glittery things and some sword things, like a big looking sword things there. Very much a Berserk kind of reference, right? Like the memorial to the Band of the Hawk, if you've ever read those. We'll take a look at that, and then we're going to rest and call the video, because it's already been a while. Yeah, look at that. All kinds of blade, like stone blades in the earth. What does it say? Godric the Golden. Humiliated, having tasted defeat by the blade of Miquella, now on his knees, begging for mercy. So this is a slightly different name than like the dude we were talking about in the castle. I mean, it's the same name, but like in the castle they called him Godric the Grafted, and this says Godric the Golden. And there's another name that I'm pretty sure they said it in the beginning thing is Godwyn, right? The first of the demigods to die, Godwyn the Golden. So, and they both have God in their name, so there seems to be some connections there, but is humiliated, tasted defeat by the blade of Miquella. And we've heard about Miquella before, so he lost to Miquella. There was an item that we could choose at the beginning, the, like, charming, like, beguiling little needle things, or whatever they're called, that were made by a demigod, or inspired by something like that, right? By the demigod Miquella. So we've heard him a couple times now, and he seems to have bested this other demigod. But let's go ahead and rest it up and go ahead and finish up for this session. Something's happening. What do we got? And there's that mysterious person from earlier.
Traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina.
She got some marks on her hands. And a mark on her eye.
I offer you an accord.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Finger Maidens?
Right, yep.
They serve the Two Fingers, offering guidance and aid to the Tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless. I can play the role of maiden. Turning runes into strength to aid you in your search for the Elden Ring. You need only take me with you to the foot of the Erd Tree.
Alright, so right, she's confirmed again that like we don't have a maiden, which if you think back when we first like really started playing, there was a like dead woman in the church thing there where we initially woke up, and I compared her to Maid Marian, and she's got kind of a nun like headdress looking thing to me. Was that our maiden? Like, did something happen to her? Like, she should have been with us, helping us, giving us a strength of runes, a guidance of the Two Fingers and stuff. And so she's saying she can do that for us. She can play the role, so she's not actually one of them. Like, if that is in fact what that woman was, you know, her attire here is nothing like that. And obviously she didn't immediately help us out, right? Like, she seemed to have kind of when we were waking up, but she didn't like get us up and say, hey, I'm a finger maiden, I'm here to help you, right? So, but we need it. We need the strings of runes. We need that stuff. So we do need her help. And she wants us to take her with us to the foot of the Erd tree. I wonder why, right? Yeah, we could refuse her and see what she says there.
Understand. I'm asking you to put faith in but a stranger. Yet I'm certain that we can reach an understanding.
Okay.
Summon me by grace, if you should reconsider.
All right. So at this point, we could kind of, and she just fades away, like, whoosh, gone. So we could think about it, right? We could try and, like, decide, do we want to do that, right? What do we want to do? We do want her to go with us, so we're going to go ahead and sit back down. We've reconsidered it. Talk to Melina. Aegil Lake Norse. And then she just appears.
Have you reconsidered my offer?
Have.
Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring.
Oh, see, she was wearing a ring. Is that the same ring? It is a thin little golden thing. A spectral steed whistle. Okay. She was riding a horse. Spectral steed.
Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
Okay. Well, let's level up then, because see, we didn't have that option before. So that is the strength of runes. We use the runes, the things that we've been collecting from defeating enemies, gathering things from them, and we can use that to strengthen ourselves now, because they know, or she knows, and the Finger Maidens know something about turning runes into strength.
Shall I turn your runes to strength? Let my hand rest upon you. For but a moment, share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions, the principles you would follow.
So something I've wondered here, right? So she has that whole thing she says right there when you start talking to her. Share them with your thoughts, you know, our ideals, principles upon which we live. Like, why does she ask for that? Is she just making small talk? Does she just want to get to know us? Or is that like a key part of what levels us up? Do we give her these runes, and as we tell her about like what our ideals are, depending on these ideals that we're telling her, like that's how it strengthens us. If we tell her certain things, it'll give us greater strengths in different areas, you know, like if it was like playing out like really or something. But I just thought that was an interesting thing to, you know, just kind of think about, right? We're actually going to skip this for now because I need to double check some stats on items I would like to use. But from there, that's going to be pretty much it, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at the Spectral Steed whistle or ring, and then we'll end the video. A delicate gold work ring can be used as a finger whistle, used to sound the whistle to summon and ride Torrent, the Spectral Steed. Upon his death, he can be summoned again, but doing so drains a flask of crimson tears. All right. So let's go ahead and just put it on there, I guess. And I suppose that will be it. Thank you guys for checking it out. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and keep going. We'll have a choice on the next one, whether we want to push on and follow what the guidance of grace says, which is to go up there, which we have a map. We picked up a thing at the Gatefront Ruins, and now we can see that the grace is most definitely pushing us up towards this castle. And you can see there's that big old bridge, and it looks like right there's another little bridge we can go, and a finger reader crone, whatever the heck that is. And there's a lot more to go and check out. So like, we'll make the decision. Obviously this isn't pushing us anywhere, so maybe we'll go and explore more before we actually take on the true path. You know, we'll see. But again, thanks for checking it out. Hope you guys kind of enjoyed it, and until the next one, take care.